There are moments in life where everything freezes, where sound, time, breath itself holds still like it's waiting to see what you'll do. For me, that moment came in the middle of a house party in Denver. The lights were low, music loud, our friends scattered between the living room and kitchen, laughing, cups in hand. I just stepped outside for a moment to catch my breath. It had been one of those days where small talk felt like climbing uphill in sand. And by the time I came back in, Megan, my wife, was standing on the damn coffee table. Her heels clicked against the wood. People were filming. Others were giggling. And then she said it. Jack's biggest talent, she slurred, holding her drink high like she was toasting to some noble truth, is being invisible. Laughter sputtered awkwardly around the room. But nobody laughed loud. No, they looked at me. All eyes. Like they were waiting to see if I'd laugh too. The music cut off mid-beat. Someone killed it from the speaker, and the room went dead silent. I stared up at her. Her eyeliner was slightly smudged. One strap of her dress had slipped off her shoulder. But it was her smile that hit me hardest. Crooked, mean, like she'd been saving this punchline for a long time. My voice came out colder than I meant. "Megan," I said flatly, "get off the table." She blinked, swaying slightly, then cocked her head like she hadn't heard me right. "Why? Embarrassed?" "No, I'm just done playing your clown." She laughed. Loud. Unkind. "You're not done, Jack. You don't even know how to start." I stepped closer. "Say that again." "Oh, please," she hissed, slurring now, but still somehow sharp. "You spend your life blending into wallpaper. Nobody notices you unless I introduce you." "That's enough," I said. "No," she snapped, voice rising. "You want to be noticed? Want people to hear you? Then do something, Jack. Be someone for once instead of lurking like some failed side character." That did it. I felt it build in my chest, like a storm waiting to explode. "Get down before I say what I really think of you," I said, barely above a whisper. She scoffed. "You think you scare me?" "No," I said. "I think you forgot which one of us built this life. Who paid for that wedding? Who sat next to your dad in the ICU for 6 hours while you were at brunch? Who kept covering for your breakdowns so you could still show up to work and pretend you had it all together?" She froze, swaying just slightly, lips parted but silent. The room was dead quiet. "You think I'm invisible?" I continued. "You're damn right. Because every time I show up, you find a new way to shrink me down. But not tonight. You wanted an audience, Megan? You've got one. Look around. Everyone's seeing exactly who you are." She stepped down from the table too fast, stumbled, and nearly fell, but I didn't move to catch her. "Jack," I cut her off. Don't what?" she said, blinking rapidly. "Don't defend myself. Don't pretend you're not drunk out of your mind and picking a fight because you're bored. You wanted a moment? You got one." She looked around and finally saw it. The still faces, the stiff expressions, the people slowly backing away like we were a wreck unfolding in real time. Someone whispered, "This is, wow." And then I walked past her, straight out the door, into the cold Denver night. I didn't look back. Let her stand there in her spotlight. She earned it. The next morning, the kitchen smelled like burnt toast and resentment. Megan stood by the fridge in an oversized hoodie, hair in a loose knot, pretending the night before had been a dream, or at least something small enough to tuck behind a coffee mug. She didn't look at me, just stood there, pouring oat milk into her cereal like we were in some quiet sitcom morning scene. I pulled out a chair, sat down, and folded my hands in front of me. No theatrics, no edge, just the truth. "You humiliated me last night," I said. The spoon paused halfway to her mouth. Still, she didn't look up. "It was a party, Jack. People drink. People joke. You're being dramatic." My jaw flexed. "You got up on a table and called me invisible." She gave a tiny laugh, dry and sharp. "It was a joke." "No, it was a mask," I replied. "One you wear when you're angry, or bored, or looking for an audience." "I get that, but that doesn't mean I have to accept it." She finally looked at me, eyes dull, but her mouth curved in that mocking little smirk I'd grown to hate. "You're really going to sulk all day about this?" "I think we need therapy," I said plainly. "A real conversation, with someone who can help." Her eyebrows lifted. "You want to go to therapy because of a joke at a party?" I didn't blink. "I want to go because this isn't working. You attack. I retreat. You perform, and I vanish. I don't want to live like this." She shoved her bowl aside with a clink and leaned against the counter. "You're so sensitive," she said, the words slow and condescending. Maybe you need therapy, Jack? You've always been too soft. That did it. I stood, not yelling, not slamming, just rising to meet her, eye to eye. I'm not soft, Megan. I'm tired. Tired of pretending that every cruel thing you say is a punchline. Tired of apologizing for things I didn't do just to keep peace in a house you turn into a war zone. Her smile faded, replaced by a blank stare. You weren't like this before, she muttered. I nodded. No, because before, I still thought you respected me. Her lip twitched, like she wanted to argue, but I didn't let her. You've turned me into your emotional punching bag. And last night, that wasn't some drunk accident. That was you saying what you've wanted to say for months, just with more glitter on it. She folded her arms. So what now, Jack? You want to sit on a therapist's couch and blame me for all your feelings? Let some stranger tell me how to be a better wife while you cry about cereal placement and cold dinners? No, I said calmly. I want to see if there's anything left here to fix. The silence that followed was longer than the one in the living room the night before. But it wasn't a peaceful kind. It was loaded. She turned back to the sink, washed her bowl with robotic precision. Every clink of ceramic against porcelain felt like a middle finger. Fine, she muttered after a beat. Call someone. Let's get this performance over with. I stared at her for a long time, then said the one thing I hadn't said out loud before. I don't want performance, Megan. I want truth. And if you can't do that, then maybe we're already done. She froze at the sink, hands wet, dripping. Her voice dropped an octave. You're threatening me? No, I replied. I'm giving you a mirror. I walked out then, not slamming the door, not playing into her favorite rhythm of rage. And for once, she had no line to follow me with. The thing about silence is that it's louder than people realize. It doesn't shout. It creeps. It stains. And by the third day, it had started dripping from our walls like cold condensation. After that morning in the kitchen, Megan and I didn't fight. We just stopped speaking. Not in some dramatic way. It was quieter than that. More intentional. Like she'd placed our marriage on Do Not Disturb and gone on with her life. She started working late. That's what she said anyway. Client pitch ran long. She texted once. No signal during dinner. Sorry, came another. But I'd seen her messages come in while I sat across the room from her muted phone, the screen lighting up like a ghost in the dark. She wasn't hiding it well. Then again, I wasn't confronting her, either. I wanted to believe it was stress, that she was retreating because she was embarrassed, that maybe she needed space to collect herself. So I gave it to her. For 3 days, I came home and tried. I asked if she'd eaten. I poured her a glass of wine. I told her when I'd be late the next day, just in case she cared. Every answer she gave was short, cool, like I was a coworker she barely tolerated. On Thursday, I made her favorite, shrimp linguine, garlic bread on the side, the whole thing. She walked in late, heels clicking, coat draped over one arm. She barely glanced at the table before walking past. I already ate, she muttered. Want me to save you a plate? I asked. No, don't bother. That was the last sentence she said to me that night. We sat on opposite ends of the couch like statues. The only sound in the room the quiet clink of my fork against the plate I was too stubborn to abandon. Friday morning, I tried again. She was at the sink, tying her hair into a low bun, sipping coffee like she was in a hotel room. Like none of this belonged to her. Do you want to talk about what's happening between us? I asked gently. She didn't even look at me. What's there to talk about? She muttered, not unkindly, but worse. Indifferently. We're living in the same house like strangers, I said. Is that how you want this to go? She rinsed her mug and placed it in the sink with surgical precision. Then she dried her hands slowly and turned to face me. You said you wanted truth, she said. Well, here's some. I don't feel like pretending everything's fine just because you decided to be emotional about one bad night. That wasn't one bad night, Megan. That was the spark that lit up everything we've buried for years. She grabbed her bag. I'm late. You're also wrong, I said firmly. She froze at the door. Her back straightened. Excuse me. You're not cold because you're hurt. You're cold because you're guilty. You humiliated me in front of people who used to respect me. And you're avoiding me because facing what you did would require you to admit that maybe you were cruel. And maybe you've been cruel for a long time. That hit something. I saw it in her jaw, the way it tensed. But all she said was, you always make it about you. No, I replied quietly. You made it about me when you stood on that table. She didn't respond. She just left. The door clicked shut behind her like a punctuation mark I hadn't earned. That night, I sat in our dimly lit living room, a single lamp on, watching the shadows stretch across the floorboards like they were trying to reach something I couldn't. I looked around, at the art she picked, the throw pillows she insisted we get from that overpriced boutique downtown, the bookshelf I built by hand one spring. It all still looked like our life, but none of it felt like home anymore. And suddenly I realized something painful, something quiet. You can lose someone long before they leave. Dude, you been skipping leg day again? Marcus's voice echoed off the concrete walls of the gym locker room as he tossed his towel into a bin and reached for his water bottle. His timing was perfect, just as I dropped onto the bench with that worn-out exhale you give when you're carrying more than just physical weight. He plopped down next to me, still catching his breath from the last set. "You good, man?" he asked. "You look like you've been bench pressing stress." I gave a dry chuckle. "That obvious? You're moving like you aged 10 years since last week. What's going on with you and Megan? You guys, all right?" The question hit harder than any rep that morning. I rubbed the back of my neck and looked down at the scuffed tile floor, the scent of sweat and rubber thick in the air. "She humiliated me in front of everyone last weekend," I said. "Jumped on a table at Jamie's party and called me invisible, loud enough to stop the music." Marcus's brows shot up. "Wait, that was real? I thought she was just being, I don't know, dramatic and drunk." "She meant it," I said. Every word. He nodded slowly, like he was piecing together something he hadn't wanted to say. Then he leaned in. "Look, man, after that night, nobody had her back." I looked up. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said, lowering his voice, "people saw who she was. No one laughed. Nobody thought it was funny. We were all just uncomfortable, and honestly, kinda embarrassed for you." I swallowed that slowly, letting it sink in. He continued. "Jen even said, wow, if that's how she talks to him in public, I don't want to know how it is behind closed doors. You should have seen everyone's face after you left." That stopped me. For the first time in days, something cracked through the fog I'd been living in. "So, they didn't think I overreacted?" I asked. Marcus shook his head. "Jack, you didn't react enough." The words hung there between us, suspended in the thick, musty air. I let out a long breath, leaned back against the lockers. I've been walking around like I imagined the whole thing. Like maybe I'm the one being sensitive. "You're not," he said. "You're just finally seeing what the rest of us noticed a while ago." For a long moment, we sat there in silence. Two grown men in sweat-drenched shirts, the distant hum of treadmills still running behind the door. And then Marcus clapped me on the back. "You deserve better, man. At least someone who sees you." It wasn't a grand speech, but in that locker room, surrounded by the stale air of effort and exhaustion, it felt like the clearest breath I'd had in weeks. It was the first time I didn't feel crazy, and that was the beginning of something new. The first bang hit the door around 11:12 p.m. I didn't flinch. I was in the living room, sitting on the couch with the lights low, a cup of tea in my hand. Chamomile, the kind Megan always called old man tea. I took a slow sip as the second bang came, harder this time, followed by her voice. "Jack, what the hell?" I stood up, walked to the door, but didn't open it. Just leaned against the frame and waited. "I forgot my keys," she said, knocking again. This time lighter, like we were still playing house. "Let me in." I took another breath. Calm, steady, almost serene. "You can stay with whoever you were with last night." The silence that followed was immediate and total. It was like even the cicadas outside stopped to hear what she'd say. "Excuse me." Her voice cracked. "Jack, open the damn door. You came home at 3 a.m. "The night before," I said through the wood. "The night before that, you didn't come home at all. And tonight, you're surprised I changed the locks?" "You're being ridiculous," she spat. "I was out with coworkers." "Sure," I said. "You want to try that one again, slower this time?" There was a pause. I could almost hear her thinking, flipping through the Rolodex of excuses in her head. "Open the door," she finally said, lower now. Not begging, not demanding, just off balance. I pressed my palm flat against the wood. "You don't live here right now. You sleep here. Sometimes. But this isn't your home anymore. Not until you act like it." "Are you serious?" she asked, but this time, her voice didn't carry the same fire. It trembled, just barely, but I heard it. I didn't answer. I waited. Then came the anger, like a second wind. You don't get to lock me out, Jack. That's what? You think you're punishing me? Making some kind of point? No. I'm protecting myself, I said. From the version of you that shows up drunk, cruel, and completely uninterested in this marriage. You think this makes you look strong? She snapped. It makes you look petty. I smiled, though she couldn't see it. Petty would have been posting videos from the party. Or telling your mom what you said about me. This isn't petty. This is peace. You're being a child. No, I said. I was a child when I let you walk all over me. When I waited up for you night after night. Thinking maybe this time you'd come home early. Maybe this time you'd say sorry. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Jack, you wanted space. You wanted control. You've had both. But you don't get to walk in and out of my life like you're checking a box. A long silence stretched. Then she tried again, softer this time. Just let me get my stuff. Your things are in the guest room. Nothing's been touched. But the bedroom? That's mine now. I turned the deadbolt slowly, just enough to make sure she heard it lock again. Megan, I said, my voice calm, even clear. This house doesn't need a show anymore. Just honesty. Come back when you're ready to be real. Or don't. That's your choice. And I walked away. She didn't call after me. No more banging. No more shouting. Just quiet. Eventually, I heard her footsteps leave the porch. It was the first time in weeks that the house felt still. Not empty. Not cold. Still. And I stood there in the silence, breathing easier than I had in a long time. It started with a status. Just a single sentence on her page. No context, no names. Sometimes the ones who smile the most hide the ugliest hearts. I saw it during lunch break, half scrolling through my phone while sipping bad office coffee. Her profile photo was still the same, the one I took of her on our trip to Breckenridge last fall. Smiling, windswept hair, that perfect for Instagram glow. But the words under it? They weren't about healing. They were a trigger, bait. And I knew exactly who she wanted to catch. That afternoon, the post continued. I wish people knew the truth. You never really know someone until they hurt you in silence. Feeling unsafe isn't always about bruises. I didn't respond. Didn't comment. Didn't text. That would have been walking into her trap. Because she wasn't reaching out. She was performing again, just like that night on the table. But this time, her audience wasn't in a living room. It was online. A few people threw her likes. Some replied with vague support. You okay? Here if you need to talk. But the deeper messages never came. The private sympathies she'd hoped to stir up, they didn't arrive. Our mutual friends knew better. Most of them had been there at the party. They'd seen the wine, the sway in her step, the smirk when she said I was invisible. And they remembered I didn't fight back. I just left. No storming. No yelling. Just silence and hurt. A week ago, I would have still been shaken by what people thought. But now, I had work to do. I poured everything into the business. Client calls. Late-night proposals. I even landed a long-shot contract with a city planning board, something I'd been chasing for months. There was a strange calm in the focus. The kind of calm that comes not from having peace, but from building it. And every time my phone buzzed with a new one of her posts, I reminded myself of something simple. I didn't need to defend myself. The truth didn't need a megaphone. It needed consistency. The house was quiet now. And for once, it wasn't a silence I feared. It was space. My space. I started rearranging things, not out of spite, but necessity. Her yoga mat? Moved to the garage. The fake marble tray she insisted had to stay on the kitchen counter? Gone. I replaced it with a small plant and a wooden bowl for my keys. I was making the house mine again, one drawer at a time. Late one evening, I got a message from Jamie, the same friend who hosted the party. Jamie, hey man, just want you to know, no one's falling for her little victim routine. We were all there. We saw what happened. Me, appreciate that. Jamie, if you need anything, say the word. Seriously. I stared at that message for a long time before replying. Then I typed out something I hadn't felt in weeks. Me, I'm good. Really, just getting started. The cafe was warm, louder than usual, clinking mugs, steam hissing from the espresso machine, chairs dragging across the tile. I sat near the window, fingers wrapped around a black ceramic mug, the kind they serve when they want you to feel like you're in a movie. I wasn't watching the street. I was watching the door. And when Adam walked in, he looked like someone carrying a secret too big for his jacket. We hadn't spoken in a while, not since the party. He was one of the quieter friends. Always more observer than participant. But when he spotted me and raised his hand, I knew something was coming. He slid into the seat across from me, offered a half smile. "Hey," he said. "Appreciate you meeting me." "No problem," I said. "Coffee's on me." He gave a tight nod, tapped the menu with 2 fingers, but didn't look at it. "I've been meaning to reach out sooner," he said. "I just didn't want to stir anything." I waited. Let him take his time. Finally, he leaned in slightly. "Look, man, I don't know how to say this, but people are talking." I didn't blink. "About?" He exhaled slowly. "About Megan." My hand didn't move, but the grip on the mug tightened just enough that the heat started to bite into my skin. "What about her?" I asked. Adam lowered his voice. "There's a guy. No one's sure who exactly, but it's coming up. Quietly. People think she's seeing someone." A sharp laugh escaped me, but not because it was funny. It was the sound you make when the suspicion you've been ignoring finally gets a name. "She didn't waste much time," I muttered. Adam's face twisted with guilt. "I don't mean to throw fuel on anything, Jack. I just thought you should hear it from someone who's on your side." "You're sure?" He hesitated. "Not solid proof. Just talk. But when there's that much smoke." I nodded, setting the mug down carefully. My fingers left a ring of condensation on the table. "Did she say anything to you?" "No. But I saw her outside that brewery on Colfax last Friday night. She was close with someone. Laughing, leaning in. You know that look. It wasn't just catching up." I leaned back in the chair, staring past him, out at the passing cars. I didn't ask what he looked like, or how old, or if he was married too. None of it mattered. It was what she didn't say. The late nights. The cold shoulder. The certainty that she was untouchable. Adam shifted awkwardly in his seat. "You okay?" I looked him dead in the eye. Calm. Measured. "Yeah," I said. "I think I finally am." He studied me for a second, like he expected rage. Or heartbreak. Maybe some kind of breakdown. But all I felt was stillness. Not peace. Not yet. But a shift. Like the ground beneath me had finally stopped moving, and I could see the road ahead without the dust cloud in my eyes. Adam slid a napkin across the table. "My number, in case you want to talk again. I know I'm not your best friend, but I've got your back." I took the napkin, folded it once, slipped it into my jacket. "Thanks," I said. "I mean it." We stood. No hug. Just a firm handshake and the kind of nod men give when they've just said something real. I left the cafe into cold, bright Denver light. And for the first time, I wasn't walking away confused. I was walking toward something. The photos came in just after midnight. I was in bed, reading emails I didn't care about, trying to lull myself to sleep with fake responsibility. My phone buzzed once, then twice, then 3 times. The preview showed Adam's name. Adam, man. I didn't know how to say it before, but I just found these. From the party 2 weeks ago. Not the one at Jamie's. The one after, when Megan said she had that team dinner. I clicked the first photo, and everything in me went still. There she was, Megan, under those string lights outside that patio bar off Colfax. Her arms draped around a man's shoulders. His face half-turned, laughing. She was kissing his neck. Not a mistake. Not a hug. Not an innocent moment frozen wrong. Intimate. Deliberate. And painfully easy. I scrolled through the next few. Different angles. Same truth. Her body pressed into him like they'd done this before. Her smile wide. Her hand on his chest like she owned the night. I just stared. Not angry. Not broken. Just cold. And then I dialed. Adam picked up on the first ring. "Jack, man. I was gonna wait, but I couldn't." Those were from Nate's phone. He didn't want to get involved, but he sent them to me after hearing Megan's been spinning things. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. She told me that night she had a strategy meeting at her boss's place. Adam let out a long breath. "Jack, that's the same night she showed up late to the party. Hair done, new dress, wouldn't say where she came from." I let that sit for a beat. "You know who he is?" "No, but from what I can gather, it wasn't a one-time thing. People saw them together at another event, same guy. Definitely not a coworker in any normal sense." I nodded slowly. "Did anyone say anything?" "We all saw it, but no one wanted to get involved. You know how it is." But after she started posting those cryptic abuse quotes, people started digging. And yeah, it doesn't line up. At all. I stood up, walked toward my office, quiet as a ghost in my own home. "Send me everything you have," I said. "All the originals." "Already did," he replied. "Jack, look, we all support you. None of us are buying her side of this. Whatever you're thinking of doing next, you're not alone. I paused by the printer, stared at it like it had just become a weapon. Thanks, I said. I won't forget that. We hung up. I opened the files. High-res. Time-stamped. 2 weeks ago, exactly when she said she was working overtime. Click, click, click. Each photo slid into the print queue. The hum of the machine filled the room as the pages fed out, one by one, cool and sharp. Her smile frozen, his hands familiar on her waist. Their faces full of ease, while I was probably home folding her laundry. I gathered the stack. No tears, no shaking, just a quiet kind of betrayal that didn't scream. It printed itself. There was no shouting, no storm out, no final straw. Just a man sitting in a family lawyer's office on a quiet Tuesday afternoon, signing his name on the dotted line. 3 times. Initials once. And that was it. I filed for divorce. Her name in black ink, mine in sharper contrast beside it. The room smelled like paper and printer toner and decisions made by people who no longer flinched. Across the desk, my attorney, Elise Roth, slid the folder back into its envelope with clinical precision. You've got the photos, texts, the timeline. We'll submit everything formally next week, she said. Given the misconduct, you're in a strong position. Do you want temporary orders filed for property or restraining contact? I shook my head. No need, I said. She'll want to pretend everything's fine for now. Let her. Elise tilted her head. That calm might rattle her more than rage ever could. That's the plan, I replied. As I stood, she slid me a new folder, this one thinner. What's this? I asked. A copy of the social event she RSVP'd to. Her name's listed. So is his. It's in 2 weeks. Looks like some pre-launch party for that brewery she does branding for. I opened it. It was all there. Address, dress code, sponsor list, guest count. Megan was still acting like her life hadn't cracked open. She was still posting filtered pictures. Still writing captions like, grateful for growth, even when it hurts. Still pretending she wasn't sleeping next to a man who didn't know she was someone else's wife. Good. Let her pretend. Because I wasn't walking into that party as the man she erased. I'd walk in as the man she underestimated. The next 10 days, I disappeared in plain sight. I still went to work, still answered emails, still jogged my same route every morning. But behind that routine, I was cutting threads she didn't know I had hold of. I closed the joint savings. I cataloged every date from the photos, matched them with calendar events where she claimed she was working late. I logged all of it. Each contradiction, each lie. I sent Elise everything. She didn't ask for more. You're building a map, she told me over the phone. When we walk into mediation, we don't tell a story. We show it. Clean. Precise. Impossible to deny. Not just mediation, I said. There's a party. A party. A big one. Everyone will be there. Her clients, her friends, her new boyfriend. I want her to know I'm done in the most elegant way possible. You're planning a confrontation? No, I said. I'm planning a conclusion. Elise was quiet for a moment, then finally said, all right, just stay calm. If this is about closure, make sure you don't give her the show she wants. She already had her show, I replied. That night on the coffee table, that was her stage. This time, it's my turn. Back home, I set the manila folder on my desk and sat down. The house was quieter than usual. Megan hadn't been back in days. No calls, no texts, not even a message about the things she left behind. Good, because I wasn't the same man who stood beneath her heels and let her joke about my invisibility. That man was gone, and the one left behind, he didn't raise his voice. He let the truth speak for him. Soon, the music was low and expensive. That's the only way I can describe it. One of those curated playlists that made people feel important while sipping cocktails with herbs no one could pronounce. The venue was a rooftop in downtown Denver, all exposed beams, amber light, and curated foliage. She always loved places like this, rooms that looked like effort but felt like art. I arrived 20 minutes after it started. Not late enough to look staged. Not early enough to be forgotten. Megan didn't see me at first. She was too busy floating. That's what she did when she wanted to be seen. Laughing just a bit too loud, brushing arms with people, fingers curled loosely around a wine glass. She wasn't drinking fast enough to dull her nerves. She wore emerald green, her color of choice when she wanted control. I watched from the perimeter, long enough to see her lean into him. The man from the photos, his hand at the small of her back, her eyes locked on his like she had no idea her real name was still mine on paper. Until I moved toward her. The moment she noticed me, it was subtle. A blink. A recalculation. She straightened her shoulders, took a breath, and let her lips part into that rehearsed smile. "Well," she said, lifting her glass like we were old friends. "Look who remembered how to be social." "I had a reason to show up," I replied calmly, setting a manila folder gently on the table between us. She glanced at it, then back at me, still smiling. "Oh, Jack," she said with mock sweetness. "If this is some dramatic gesture." "It's not," I said. "It's clarity." Her date shifted awkwardly beside her. "Everything all right?" Megan tilted her head and laughed. "Jack's just being theatrical." Again. I looked her dead in the eye. "You once said you could get divorced anytime you wanted," I said. "Are you sure about that?" She faltered, smile flickering for half a second. "What's that supposed to mean?" I opened the folder. Inside, the official divorce papers. Signed, filed, stamped. And beneath them, the printed photos, her arms around another man, her lips on his neck, time-stamped for the same night she said she was working late. I slid them across the table. She stared at them like they were burning her fingers. Her lover leaned in to glance, and then recoiled. I didn't know you were still married," he stammered, backing up half a step. "We were," I said, turning to him. "Now she's all yours." Megan turned scarlet. "Jack, this isn't a show," I said calm. "You already gave your performance. Remember? Jack's biggest talent is being invisible. Funny thing is, everyone's looking now." Her voice cracked. "You planned this to humiliate me." "No," I said. "You did that part all on your own." The guy took another step back. "Yeah, I'm not. I'm not looking for this kind of situation. I don't do drama." He looked at Megan one last time, muttered, "Good luck," and disappeared into the crowd. The silence was heavy. Then Jamie, of all people, spoke up from the other side of the patio. "You know what's funny?" he said, voice raised just enough. "Everyone kept quiet because we didn't want to get involved. But Jack, you handled this better than anyone could have." A ripple of agreement followed. Nods, murmurs, and then laughter. Not cruel, not mocking, just real. Megan stood frozen in place, blinking fast, lips pressed into a line that couldn't hold a single word. I turned and walked away, no triumph in my steps. Just peace. The kind I'd been earning one quiet day at a time. 3 months later, the grill was sizzling and the yard smelled like cedar smoke and second chances. I was at home, my home now, tongs in one hand, beer in the other, wearing a faded Broncos tee that hadn't seen daylight since before things went sideways. The backyard buzzed with laughter, folding chairs clustered around the fire pit I finally rebuilt. The same people were here, the same ones who'd watched it all unravel. But tonight, nobody whispered. Nobody avoided my eyes. Nobody asked about Megan. She didn't come up. Not once. Marcus was flipping veggie kebabs with unnecessary precision. Adam sat with a plate on his lap, talking sports with Jamie. Jen and her husband brought that ridiculous salad again. Something quinoa-based that no one actually liked, but everyone respected. It was simple, and that simplicity felt earned. Around sunset, when the sky went soft and orange, Jamie clinked a bottle against his glass. "A quick one," he said. "Not a speech, just something I want to say." The table quieted. He turned toward me, raising his glass. "To healing right," he said. "Not just moving on, but rebuilding. Brick by brick." "Jack, man, you didn't just survive. You reminded all of us what self-respect looks like. Cheers to that." Everyone lifted their drinks. Clinks echoed like soft applause. I nodded once, couldn't help the smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. "Thanks," I said. "Really, for not just showing up tonight, but for showing up when it counted." Adam grinned. "You earned that 10 times over." "Yeah," Marcus added. "And next time you need someone to run interference at a party, call me. I've been dying to punch someone who deserves it." Laughter rolled across the patio. I looked around, at the string lights swaying above us, the half-finished deck chairs, the slightly crooked fence I still hadn't gotten around to fixing. And it hit me. This was what rebuilding looked like. Not flashy, not loud, just steady, real, mine. That was the end of the story. You know, I've thought a lot about Adam since all this happened. How he didn't owe me anything, but still sent those photos. That choice changed everything. So tell me honestly, did he do the right thing, or was it crossing a line? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story hit you somewhere deep, don't forget to like and subscribe. I've got more stories to tell.